Hi there, I'm Larissa from ELCUS, which stands for English Resource Lab, keeping it simple. And in this video, I want to talk about a fairly formal idiom, in accord with and in accordance with. Why? Because this is something where some people often can make mistakes, including native speakers in business. So what I'd like to do is have a look and first of all talk about what each one means, followed with some examples. So if it's something that you're interested in, then keep watching. Let's start off with talking about accord and accordance. Accord is a verb. Accordance is a noun, but we are looking at the idiom. In accordance with, in accord with. Let's start off with in accord. In accord with means in agreement, to agree. In accordance with has a slightly different meaning. Some people think you can interchange them, but you actually can't. In accordance with means to obey, to comply, in compliance. So we have in agreement, which is accord, and in accordance with means in compliance. So as you can see, they're slightly different. Let's have a look at this sentence, for example. Lydia wants to sign an accord with her company. And here we're using an accord, not in. Does it make sense? Yes, it does, because it simply means she wants to sign an agreement with her company. Can we say Lydia wants to sign in accordance with her company? No. And the reason we wouldn't say that is because if we use the verb wants, Lydia wants to, generally speaking, she's not signing something that she doesn't agree with. She's signing something that she does agree with. So therefore, we say Lydia wants to sign an accord with her company. So generally speaking, both accord and accordance take the prepositions in and with. Sometimes we can use an when we're talking about accord, when we talk about an agreement. Let's have a look at some more examples. Smith's legal practice is aiming to sign an accord with Blue's law firm. Can we say this? Or can we say this? Smith's legal practice is aiming to sign in accordance with Blue's law firm. It's very similar to the first example. So we would say an accord with rather than in accordance with. Let's have a look at some more. Which one is correct? The private lives of many celebrities rarely find themselves in accordance with public opinion? Or the private lives of many celebrities rarely find themselves in accord with public opinion? If you said in accord with, ding ding, you're correct. We're not going to use in accordance with. They're not obeying public opinion. Let's look at this example. Which one is correct? Be careful when placing trust in decisions that are not in accordance with evidence. Do we say this or do we say this? Be careful when placing trust in decisions that are not in accord with evidence. So what we're saying here is in accord with evidence. That makes more sense. We don't say in accordance with, because the sentence means be careful. So take caution when you make a decision. You don't want to make a decision that doesn't agree with evidence. You don't necessarily want to make a decision that has to obey evidence. That doesn't quite make sense. And now let's look at the last sentence. Government has finalised a $5 million deal in accordance with community sentiment. Do we say this or do we say government has finalised a $5 million deal in accord with community sentiment? If you said in accord with, then ding ding, you're correct again. Why? Because generally speaking, government is finalising a deal that agrees with community sentiment. It doesn't obey community sentiment. And the reason why is because the community is huge. Obviously, not everybody's going to have the same opinion. They take an overall idea of what the community is saying. Now let's have a look at another one that's just a little bit trickier. Given the current situation, in accordance with Jacob's theory, we can see that solar-generated panels are far more effective than battery operations. Is this correct? Or, given that current situation, in accord with Jacob's theory, we can see that solar-generated panels are far more effective than battery operations. Yes, we say in accord with. Because what we're saying here is that the current situation is in agreement with Jacob's theory. And it has to be in agreement because it's only a theory. It doesn't necessarily have to obey or conform to a theory, because a theory is merely a theory. It's not set in stone. And let's have a look at one more. The interim management of the medical team will be in accord with workplace policy. So what do we think of that? Do you say in accord with or in accordance with? If you think it's in accordance with, then you are correct. Why? Because we're talking about here about a medical team. Now they have to abide by, they have to conform with workplace policy. They don't have to necessarily agree with it. They just have to follow it. And there we have it. So next time you want to use the phrase or the idiom in accord with or in accordance with, ask yourself, are you actually talking about something that is an agreement or something that is compliant, that it has to obey something? And there you'll have your answer, whether you need to use in accord with or in accordance with. Now, if you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe now and the bell, because we're going to be creating a whole lot more videos, all to do with English for academic purposes or English for business purposes. I'm Larissa. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.